And we're back,
buddy. It's been a while. We got a lot of catching. I haven't seen you in forever.
It's been a while since I've seen you.
You seen that? Have you seen that meme where it's going around where it says like every time, and it's like it's been a while, and then all you hear is like Aaron from Stained, like in your head.
I have not seen the meme, but every time that I hear somebody say that, I do think of that song.
So how was your 4th of July weekend? Was it good?
It was explosive. It was
dynamite.
No, you know what's funny is, I don't know about you, but I hear a lot of fireworks around the 4th.
Yeah.
But I feel like I hear more fireworks in the prelude to the 4th and then after the 4th. It's more of like it's more just like a general week of explosive
explosions.
Chaos. Like, and we had a really bad storm last night, and so like people were setting off fireworks, and then like it was like thundering and stuff. It was wild.
You know, that's so it's crazy to me is because we thought the same thing, like, oh, there's no way people are going to shoot off fireworks when it's pouring rain and storming. No, people were out there full force. Didn't even matter. Like, I'm like, how are these fuses still dry enough for you to like launch them up into the sky? And like, and even then, like, you got to look up, and then the rain's just hitting you in the face. So then, like, can you even?
I got built-in rain deflectors, and so do you.
Oh no, it still gets around. It's like it still hits you. Ours was good, except for we were sick for most of last week and most of the weekend. So we were kind of limping in to the 4th, but we made it, and it was fun.
Yeah, we made ice cream. We made ice cream. That was fun. We made ice cream.
Oh, so I forgot to tell you this. This is pretty cool. So one of Perry's cousins, my wife's cousins, he brought liquid nitrogen and made ice cream with the liquid nitrogen. Like
in just like a second, it's like ice cream done.
Yeah. So he had somebody stirring, and he's like, all right, keep stirring. And he poured some in, and he's like, keep stirring. And he waited till like all the smoke or the water vapors disappeared. And then he poured some more and keep stirring. And it was really cool because like this little mini science experiment. Kids were like all hovered around it and like touching the fog or whatever was coming off of all. And like, oh, look at this! You know, it's pretty cool. It's like dry ice type stuff.
Yeah.
But it was a lot of fun. Anyways, we are back today. It's been what, 2 weeks? We did do it last week, and the week before that, I think we were out too. So, we have some catching up to do on what we've missed a couple of shows. But today we're going to talk a little bit about finding meaning in your work. And it all stems from, gosh, do I still have that? I don't think I have that photo of the fortune cookie.
Oh, I know.
It all stemmed from a fortune cookie that I got from our Chinese food one evening for dinner. And let's see, can you say it again? Because I don't remember.
Yeah, I have it over here. If you're feeling down, then try throwing yourself into work.
So that's what I read. And let's just go in first. I think in the podcast I talked about how there's this comedian that I listened to at one point. It was on like some video of Dane Cook that said the fortune cookie is the worst cookie that ever existed. I like fortune cookies personally, but whatever. He made that comment.
Was it Chris says you don't get fortune cookies here in the UK? Yeah, well, it's an American thing. It's an American thing because.
Oh, you know what? Yeah, that's true. Lauren said, "Hey,
what up, Lauren?"
Yeah. So he says that, and I remember Jason saying that in the podcast. He said that's not funny. I was like, I didn't say it was funny. I just said it was what he said. And let's talk briefly, like fortune cookies today, like the fortunes that are in fortune cookies.
They're not fortunes.
Actually, they're not fortunes. They're just random sayings.
It's like advice.
Yeah.
It's like, well, they always have the lotto numbers on there. You know, I've never tried. I don't play the lottery, but I've also never tried the lotto numbers on the back.
I would like to know somebody who's actually won the lottery using the numbers off the back of a lottery or a fortune cookie. That'd be amazing. So when I read this at dinner that night, I kind of looked at it and I put it down, and my wife read it. I had it sitting between us, and she read it, and I was like, "This could be a podcast." This could be a podcast, and because I think the hustle culture. Wait, Chinese food isn't actually good here. No, General Zhao. I have to order the sauce on Amazon. Yeah.
Oh man, I had really good Chinese. It was outside of a tube station. I can't remember. It was outside of London, I think, but it was outside of a tube station, and it was like the longest restaurant I've ever seen because it was not very wide, but it was really, really long, and it was really good Chinese food actually. I enjoyed it. I think I liked the Indian food the most over in the UK.
See if you can find it. See if you can find.
See if I can find it. I do have a travel journal, so it might be in there.
That's cool.
I'll look it up after the show.
So we were talking about how the hustle culture. Oftentimes, hustle culture will take a good thing and twist it so that it becomes a toxic thing, or they go to an extreme where it's now, it's no longer a good thing, a good representation of what the meaning of whatever that saying is or whatever that thought is. It always takes it and manipulates it so much that it doesn't look like the same thing anymore. And this is one of them. Like, because when we had the conversation, when me and you were sitting down to do the podcast, we don't typically talk about, we know what the topic is, but we don't really discuss some of that beforehand. But we did just briefly before we started recording, and you went a completely different direction than I did, because I took it as, don't dump yourself into it, because if you dump yourself into it, then everything, like we said on the show multiple times, all this stuff gets pushed to the side and you just dive your head first into it, and it'll help you feel better. And it's like, you worry about
losing yourself and losing relationships.
Because I did at one point.
Yeah.
And we'll talk about it in a minute.
Yeah, we're I think very polar opposites. I mean, we can see some middle ground, but I feel like we're polar opposites on this, because for me, what was it? If you're feeling down, to try throwing yourself into work. For me, I feel like there's some comfort there. Like, it's so many people identify themselves through their work, through their job, and if you've got trouble, or I don't know, it's just like your personal life just isn't top notch, I feel like there's some solace there for people just throwing themselves into things that make sense. And for a lot of people, it's your profession. And as long as you make sure that you're striking a balance and you're not like consumed, and like the people that they make movies about, like these people who just work, and then they forgo relationships and they forget to meet with friends. Like, there's always that cliche, like, friend group where, it's your post-college friend group, and you want to get together for brunch, like in the movie. And there's always like the one person who forgets or doesn't show up at all, or shows up late, and they're like on their phone the whole time. They're not really paying attention. They're just like there, and they're really barely engaging. And that's when they've just taken it to the extreme. But I think it's when it says, if you're feeling down, then try throwing yourself into work. I feel like that gives you the opportunity to compartmentalize your life a little bit, to where you can kind of shut off personal issues or anything like that that's going on. Like, say you're dealing with family, or you're dealing with a relationship, or you're dealing with a side hustle that's just not working, right? And you're really just down about it. Well, let me just focus on the things that make sense. Let me focus on things that I can win. And maybe you get a couple of wins and work, and then you can be like, okay, my spirit was at like a level 7, and now I'm back up to like a level 63. Okay, I've filled myself back up again. I've given myself some joy to tap into my reserves, and then I can go back and put my nose to the grindstone and get back to dealing with whatever it is I was dealing with. But I feel like as long as you strike balance and you are throwing yourself into work and you don't lose yourself, I see that as a totally fine thing.
Well, and I think you say in the pod, actually, I know you say in the podcast episode that it's about self-awareness. And I think anytime that you are planning on throwing yourself into anything, work, working out, relationship, know where your boundaries are.
Yeah.
And respect those boundaries. And then check in periodically of like, okay, I'm starting to see that these things are I'm starting to rub against these things that I said were non-negotiable for me. If I ever get to this point, I got to pull off the throttle a little bit.
Yeah.
And because that's one thing that happened to me. Like I mentioned on the show, and I've mentioned in the episode, but I've also mentioned on the show a couple of times that I shared recently my health journey about how I had all of these different life-altering things that were happening. I think the average person goes through 1 or 2 life changes a year. I went through about 7 in about 6 months.
Yeah, it was a rough go.
And during that time, the way I dealt with it was like, I mean, these were big changes, like some big things that us moving, us renovating a house, us, some really massive family stuff that was happening, extended family stuff that was happening that was very taxing on me. And the way I dealt with it was I threw myself into working out. So I was working out sometimes twice a day, going for walks throughout that time as well. I mean, I was literally spending 2 or 3 hours a day working out, high intensity workouts too. So like I was pushing myself really hard. Like I had a workout regimen that I was doing. It was a HIIT workout that was go, 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 no breaks for 45 minutes. Like literally no breaks. Like I went from one thing to the next, one to the next, one to the next. Ooh. Done with that set, I would jump right back in and go to the next one.
Dude, my heart feels like it's going to explode 9 minutes into a HIIT workout.
Yeah, and then it was like I was doing HIIT workouts, but then I was also going and running as well on top of those HIIT workouts. Running like 3 and 4 miles at 9-minute miles on hills. Yeah. So I pushed myself.
So you encountered strife, and you decided to push yourself into something that you could control, something that you could find a win in, something that made sense to you.
It was one of those things that I knew that for me in the past, I would go and run, and it was like a way for me to turn my, like to your point, like turn your brain off, kind of shut things down, get those endorphins going. That's going to help me feel better, more clear-headed, like all these things. And working out is not necessarily a bad thing, but when you go that far, I literally hurt myself to the point where my doctor looked at me and said, I don't normally tell people to stop working out. I'm telling you to stop. I want you to stop. And I was like, ugh. And like, I remember sitting in the doctor's office, like, for how long? And he was like, 6 weeks. I was like, 6 weeks? Can I walk? He's like, yeah, you can walk. So then I was like, I was walking 5 and 6 miles a day. And he goes, and I was still having all these really weird symptoms with my body, my nervous system, like all this stuff was happening to my body. And he goes, okay, now you have to stop walking. I was like, I literally have nothing. Like, I don't, and I explained to him all the psychological things that were happening, life changing, all these things that were happening, and saying, listen, now you're taking this out of the equation for me. And the point I'm getting at is your body will get to that point as well. That's what I fear with when I read this statement is you jump into it wholeheartedly and everything goes to the wayside. And if you don't have enough self-awareness to know and catch when your body's telling you something, people in your lives are telling you, like in your relationships, are saying, hey, this is suffering over here. I need you to scale back. I need you to stop.
Yeah.
And I think that there's so many people that don't have enough self-awareness to know when to pull off the throttle.
Well, it makes me think of kind of what we say to customers when we talk about like content creation.
Yeah.
And you have to pace yourself, because if you try and go full force into a new endeavor, whether it's content creation, like I was just thinking about, or if it's just pushing yourself into work or whatever, if you go full force and you don't find a good cadence, you don't set like boundaries, and you don't set like realistic, like a SMART goal. Like a SMART goal, it's not just SMART for the acronym. It's SMART because it's a smart thing to do, to set something that is measurable and achievable. Like it needs to be a good goal that you can reach, like an incremental thing that you can do. Don't just pivot and be like, you know what? These things are not working out for me. I'm going to go do this, and I'm going to put 100% of my brain power into that, because you will absolutely burn out. If you don't find a balance where it's like, I'm going to spend 2 hours a day doing this side hustle activity, and I'm going to set a goal to where in a month I want to have this done, and 2 months after that I want to be at this point, and I want to have this, that, and the other thing. Like if you don't like kind of stop for a second, take a beat, and look to see what those mile markers are on your journey, and work towards those, and don't like go crazy. It's something that you can maintain. And so if you do find that you need to, compartmentalize and section off different parts of your life, from the ones that don't make sense to the ones that make sense, like work, as long as you have good goals set, you are smart about it, and you have the right mindset, and you're very aware of what your limits are, I think it's totally fine. But when you try and just jump straight in, that might be the only issue that I take take issue with in this quote, which is, again, is if you're just listening, we're talking about this fortune cookie fortune that Zach got recently. And it said, if you're feeling down, then try throwing yourself into work. I think that the issue I might take, the point I might take issue with is throwing yourself into work. Because it kind of feels, there's like an implied, maybe like, I'm not thinking about it, I'm just jumping in. And I think that might be something that you want to take a little issue with. Just take a beat, and plan it out first.
Well, we agree on that, because that's exactly what I'm saying. This is where I was saying in the episode of, take a minute and write out what your non-negotiables are, where your limitations are that you don't want to cross. And literally sit down and do it, because again, you're going to get wrapped into it, especially if you're going through some emotional things or some life altering things that are happening around you, and you're trying to find a way to kind of cope with that, deal with it. And oftentimes getting into your work is a way of handling that. Mine was working out. And if you know where those lines are, and you're saying, listen, I don't want to cross these lines, then you're kind of like bulletproofing yourself a little bit. You can even take a step further. And if you have people you trust and say, hey, listen, here's what's happening. Here's what I want to do. Here's how I'm going to deal with that. Here, I needed some accountability. If you ever see me getting past these markers, or you see it, because sometimes we become blind to what's going on in our own lives, or even if we are self-aware, there's still things in our brain of saying, nope, keep going. Nope, nope, keep going, keep going, keep going. And having that accountability of somebody to say, hey, I think you're crossing that. I think you're starting to cross that threshold a little bit of just you're going into crazy town and you need to back off and not go to crazy town.
Yeah.
For your own sanity, for your own relationships, for your own work. Because at some point, even throwing yourself into your work can suffer because it becomes not your best work. And it's just doing it just to do it. And I think that's also something we could talk about at another time of you can put yourself, like hustle culture can distort. Well, let's just say this. Hustle culture has distorted the word hustle so much that people get so absorbed into it and think that they have to push so hard all the time that they're not creating their best work because they aren't taking those breaks. They're not listening to their body, listening to their surroundings of maybe I should scale back. And I think that's the point I'm getting at is write down what your non-negotiables are, make sure you're not crossing those, and have somebody else going to hold you accountable of not letting yourself go too far. And that's what I wish I would have had for those workouts. I didn't have that. I didn't have where's my boundary. I mean, when you're working out almost 7 days a week and you're going 2 or 3 hours a day of working out, that's extreme. Yeah, that's a little extreme. I'm not training for anything. You know what I mean? Like that's a little extreme.
Yeah. Yeah. This conversation makes me think like if we throw ourselves into work, okay, yeah, that's fine. But like what to your point, if we work and work and work and work and work, and then to the point where we're physically exhausted, whether it's actual work or if it's working out, it's got me thinking, and this feels like it's a little out of left field, but I feel like it connects a bit. Is our work week is structured Monday through Friday, and then we're off Saturday and Sunday. I feel like it's fairly common unless you're like in a customer service role where you need to be available to the public, more than just those main 5 days of the week. But is Monday through Friday working, off 2 days, is that the way it should be? Is that a good structure? Is that a good structure for work? Should there be a couple of days of work, a day or two of rest, a couple of days of work? Like should it be more fluid? Should it be changed? Should we try and change? I think Sunday we still keep sacred, but like, all things considered, like is a 5 days on, 2 days off scenario, is that good for us?
Well, I think in some cultures, I think that it is a lot slower pace. I think it's because of our American culture, and I think there's plenty of European cultures, which Chris could probably attest to, that function the same way as we as Americans think, and our work ethic, our work culture is framed exactly like that. I've always thought that myself. Like, is 2 days enough? Because by the time you finally start to get into a rhythm, it's back to work. Yeah. It's back to work. And I know that there's some cultures, I want to say it's Spain. There's some parts of Spain where they shut down. They only work like half days. And
they take siestas. Yeah. So I was actually listening to an interview with, the musician Vance Joy.
Yes.
Yeah. So I was listening to an interview with him recently, and he was talking about life during COVID and things that he learned. So he's Australian, and he got a waiver or all this paperwork he signed to be able to go to Spain during the lockdown to live there with his girlfriend. And when he was there at the time, he was talking about learning to love the siesta, and he's like,
Yeah.
it's not like you're just taking a nap for half the afternoon. It's like a 20-minute little break, but it's there after lunchtime, and it's there to recharge you and get you back in for the rest of the workday. But it's like a part of his thing now. But like, yeah, I think that there's good value in resting and recharging. I don't think that I'm the best at doing that, because I feel like I'm stealing time, or I'm cheating the system somehow by taking a break or resting. But I mean, it's our system. It's yours and my system. So it's like I'm not really cheating anything. But like, I think you work better when you're rested. And I had a job years ago at the restaurant, and my structure was it was like a couple days on, and then I had a day off, and then
you're basically working like a firefighter, basically like working like a firefighter schedule.
Yeah. So like I was off Sunday and like Tuesday. So like I worked on Monday, and I was on for like 4 days, and then I was off. But it like that day off changed. So sometimes it would be midweek, sometimes it would be different. But like that worked for me. Like I felt better, and that was a high intensity job where I was on my feet like 12 hours a day. But like it was good to have the balance, because when you are staring down at a 5-day work week and you don't feel recharged from a weekend, because often what do we do on the weekends? What are we doing on the weekends? We're spending time with our families. We're going out and doing stuff. We're creating memories. We're going to meet friends. We're going out to lunch. We're going to the park. We're going to see movies or whatever.
Staying up later.
Yeah. So like those are the days for yourself, and we're not actually recharging during those days. And I tell you, when I had that alternate schedule, when it was just a couple days on, then off, and then off, and then on, and I didn't have those days off lumped together. Of course I was younger, but like, I felt like that was a good balance, because like I would work, hard for a couple days, and then I would take a day for myself and just relax and recharge. And then like that weekend day that I got off, that would be the day that I went and did stuff. So, I think that it's, I think that that's definitely something that we should take a look at as freelancers and people who are self-employed and people who are looking to start their own companies or have influence over schedules, that we should definitely take a look at trying to change up that work week, because I think that there's something there. I think there's something there with that.
I agree with you. And because I don't know about you, but when I come back from vacation after, being off for, let's say, a week, and I come back and I get back into the office and I sit back down, I'm recharged. Like, and I go, I feel like a bee buzzing around. Like I'm able to knock things out super fast and quicker. You don't feel that way? Like I feel recharged, and I'm ready to get back to it. Well,
no.
Then I don't know. I don't know if your theory makes sense, because what you're saying is I get what you're saying, that people.
I'm talking about little chunks of time off interspersed rather than taking a chunk of time. Because for me, I'm not relaxed after vacation. Maybe it's just because I have littles, and vacation. Yeah, vacation stresses me out more than just staying at home.
Think back then to when you didn't have littles. Was it recharging? You see what I mean? Like there is this thing that happens in your brain for I would say for most people, when they come back, they do feel recharged. But I guess what you're saying is like work 2 days, maybe Wednesdays have off.
I'm talking more of like a
half
work
day off, or
I'm talking more of like a work schedule where you're taking care of yourself within the typical cadence of like a work week, and maybe it's instead of taking, I don't know, you take half days and stuff like that. I don't know. It's
how do you the big argument would be is, I have so much stuff going on, there's no way I could do that. What would be your counter argument to something like
So
that, where
when
somebody would say, I listen, that sounds fantastic. I would love to do that. And it's laughable that you think that I would be able to do that. There's no way I can do that.
I mean, I'm not saying it's something that you can do right now, but I think it's definitely something that you can strive to do. Because you're always going to be busy. That's literally like the very first piece of wisdom that one of my best bosses ever gave me. And she's like, I was making a lot of work for myself, and I felt like I was always stressed out. And she looked at me, she goes, "You're never going to be done. Like, you're never going to be done. So just pick a point and end your day and go home and come back the next day and do your best to keep at it again." So
especially in marketing, and with marketing, there's never you could literally always keep going. And think of, oh, you know what, that's gotta be done. Oh, yeah, that's gotta be done. Oh, that's gotta be done. And as a business owner, the same thing is true. Like, there's always things that need to get done.
I think that there's huge value in an augmented time schedule. So, like, years ago when I was still working at the resort, I had a lot of I was having a lot of medical issues at the time, and the medication I was taking kept me up all the time. I slept very, very little. And like, it would take me forever to go to sleep at night. I was up all hours. And then like 4 o'clock in the morning, I was up, like, just ready to go. Like, let's do this thing. And I would just sit there and I'd be like, okay, well, what do I have to do at work today? And I'll look on my phone. And after like weeks of this, I was like, you know what? Screw it. I just didn't even ask for permission. I just told my boss, I was like, hey, I'm updating my schedule. I'm going to be coming in at like 6, and I'm going to be leaving early. What is that, like 2 or 3? And I did have to like switch it around, because one of the things is I had a lot of meetings, and so I had to make sure that I had to make sure that I wasn't leaving, before a meeting, or if on days when I had meetings, I would change my schedule around too. But that one worked really well for me, because I couldn't sleep, and I was like, I'm just wasting time sitting around the house while everyone else is asleep. And so I changed my schedule. I went in early. Oh my gosh, I got so much done. And I would be there at 6. Nobody was in the office until 9. No emails, no phone calls. I literally got my whole day's worth of work done in 3 hours for myself. And then I spent the day actually being able to manage my team. And that was huge. And it didn't last for, I don't know, I think I probably did that for about 6 months or so, but it worked well for me. It worked for me at the time. And it was good. You do have those people who are like, why are you leaving so early? Like, who do you think you are, just leaving at 2 o'clock? I'm like, you know what? I've been here since 6. I was like,
that's the thing.
And I got all my work done. So just let me alone.
I think we should start a revolution on this. Like, I think that most businesses, I think you would find more productivity, and we've mentioned this a couple times on the show before, is find when your people are the most effective and alert and working at that, and have them work at those times. Even if it's not traditional work hours, even if it's not 9 to 5 cookie cutter like everybody else. Okay. Jason and I'm a morning person. So in the mornings is usually when I can focus the most and get the most stuff done. So we try not to schedule meetings first thing in the morning. So there are times where we do. Obviously, we're doing this podcast at 10 in the morning, which breaks the flow of our thought process on a lot of things. But we try not to schedule meetings in the mornings, because that's alert time for me. Jason is more active and more energized in the afternoon. So we try to flexible, like, make sure our schedule fits where we're both most alert and most energized during that time, because we know that's going to create the best work and create the most effective work. And so I would just encourage business owners, managers, whoever's listening to the show that can dictate people's schedule, maybe take an inventory of asking the question of when do you get your best work done?
Mm-hmm.
If you could sit down and say, what would your ideal work schedule look like every single day? You still need to work the same amount of hours, but how would you do it?
Yeah. The biggest issue you run into, and this is something that I had issue before when I had my augmented schedule coming in so early and leaving early, is how do you deal with people who are not on your schedule? How do you deal with when you're getting emails you say you work 6 to 2 or whatever, and you're getting emails at 3, 4, 5 o'clock when everybody's still on the clock, and then you're not responding until the next day. And maybe it's something time sensitive, and just because you have a different schedule, nobody else understands that. So like, that's something that I really had to deal with. And I would have to check my phone occasionally to make sure, okay, did I get an email? Like, oh, okay, this person's asking for something. And they're like, well, why didn't you send this to me? I'm like, okay, well, I have a different time schedule. So that is definitely something you have to deal with. Is like, if you need to send people things and you're on a different schedule, but maybe they just deal with it, or
plan
I feel like one of the ways that it doesn't work is if you have like a customer facing job, like if you have to deal with clients during certain business hours, it just won't work that way.
But then you're purposely hiring people at different function points. Yeah. You see what I mean? Even with customer facing businesses, you make sure your team is balanced out with enough people who can, who are most active and most say they're morning people. Okay, put your morning people together, and people who are, I don't know. You really have to just kind of think through how it could work for you and for your business. I don't want to sit here and like diagnose the best plan for that, but I think you are onto something that I think at some point work has to shift a little bit. Yeah. Work schedules have to shift a little bit. And I think our culture it's teetering on the edge. I think there's so many younger people, younger generations who are starting to see are starting to see the value in taking time for yourself. And it's being labeled as lazy, but I think there's so many people who are seeing that there's more to life than just go, work. Right. There's more to it. And I think in a couple of years, we'll probably see more of a shift of what you're talking about. And some offices are already doing it. Some work cultures are already doing it. Fluid work schedules. You see some of these big corporations that you come when you want to work. Like there's I think is what Google that does that, where they're really good about having very flexible work schedules. And
I think one of the things they are sure to build in is like personal project time. I can't remember what the percentage breakdown is, but like in your day and your work week, you're supposed to spend like, say for example, it's like 80% of your time working on actual business tasks. 20% is spent working on, whatever you want to work on for the company. It's not like you can't just like watch Netflix for 20% of your week, but
right.
But that's where like a lot of like their big idea projects come from, is when people get to be creative. And
I think Zappos does the same thing, which is kind of weird because it's a shoe company, but I think they do something very similar. So I think that we're already starting to see some of that shift happening. Yeah. I just think as business owners, small business owners, entrepreneurs, freelancers, it's time to kind of catch up a little bit to that and say, there's more to life than just work. How can we make some adjustments, and how can we get the best, most effective work out of people when they function the best?
Right.
And I guarantee you'll see your productivity of your team go up because of it.
Right. Yeah.
So, well, that was a fun conversation. Finding meaning in your work. And
yeah, man.
Let's start a revolution. We'll start with us. How about that?
Okay.
Go take the day off. It's
Uh,
Wednesday. Go take the day off.
I'd rather just take a nap. I'd rather just take a nap.
Yeah, take a nap, man. Go take a nap.
I'm just gonna curl up right here beside my desk. Keep the door closed. Nobody's gonna come bother me.
Yeah, I'm gonna go take a hike. That's literally what I actually already had that planned. So, all right, guys. Until next week, we will see you guys and talk to you soon. Later.
See ya. Bye.